Okay, welcome to the Anacortes Planning Commission meeting for August 13th. Ms. Gleichman, would you please take roll?
Commissioner Mills.
Present.
Commissioner McCombs.
Present.
Commissioner Ryan.
Present.
Commissioner Martin.
Here.
Commissioner Stoneman.
Here.
Commissioner Jaretsky. Here. Commissioner Courier.
Here.
All here, that's pretty good. Let's please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, item number 3 are the minutes, and I see that we don't have minutes for today.
5.
So there were, yeah, those.
Okay. I haven't seen them, but I'm just one member. Have the rest of you seen them? I haven't seen any of them.
I did get a chance. I happened to check my email. City has my laptop right now.
Okay. Is it all right with you if we skip that until next week? Because we are meeting next week? I'm sorry, I didn't know.
Yeah, it's up to you.
All right, we're going to skip the minutes, and we're on to public comment. This is the time for anybody in the audience or online that would like to speak to the Anacortes Planning Commission for an item that's not on the agenda, and we will be happy to give you 3 minutes.
There are no hands raised.
Okay, and I don't see anybody from the audience coming up. And number 5 is public hearings. We don't have one yet. And number 6, other business, comprehensive plan periodic update, introducing the draft 2025 to 2045 comprehensive plan. And Mr. Coleman.
All right, good evening, Planning Commission members. I'm John Coleman, the Director of Planning, Community, and Economic Development. And Libby Grage, our planning manager, is going to come up and give a presentation real quick. But I just thought I'd give a very, very brief overview of why we're doing this. So the comp plan is a required portion of the Growth Management Act. And I know you all know this. I just kind of want to remind the audience as they're watching this from home, hopefully. And what we do is we're planning for 20 years worth of projected population growth. We project that 20 years not as a target. You know, we're not saying like, ooh, we would like to have this many people and this many jobs and this many houses in the city of Anacortes in 2045. We're doing this as a means to be prepared for expected growth. So based on our growth patterns over the past several decades, we've worked with the county to come up with our estimate of what our population projections are going to be. And we've talked about that quite a bit during this process. And this whole process started with those population projections back in early to mid last year, and we talked about those. So just wanted to get it, as a reminder, we're planning to make sure that none of the ills of growth happen. We get comments saying like, well, we don't want more people to move here. Well, that is a fair thing to say. However, we know that people are going to come here. So in order to be prepared for that, we go through this planning process and we make sure that we're examining how many people are going to be here, how many houses we're going to need, what sort of jobs we're going to need, and where they're all going to go. And so that's what this plan represents. So what we're trying to do is avoid not being prepared for additional traffic. We want to avoid not being prepared for the amount of sewer effluent and stormwater that's going to be generated. We want to be sure that we're prepared for all those, so we're avoiding all of the ills of growth. And through this plan, we're able to do a vision process of what does the community want to look like, and full well knowing that we're going to grow. How is that growth going to look? What do we want it to look like? And so that's why we have the policies and goals in the comprehensive plan that we're going to talk about tonight. But we also then have development regulations that create the zoning rules and all of the other land use regulations that help enact that that vision that the comprehensive plan has. So that's just a reminder of why we're doing this, and it's really important that we're prepared for our future growth, and this is the process that we go through to do it. And hopefully people are watching at home, and we've gotten a lot of comments, so people are engaged in the process. You received since we were last here, you received an all-city mailer from the planning department where kind of a two-page fold-out.
I can be Vanna for a minute.
All colorful to get everybody's attention and say, "Oh, what's this?" And so we intentionally made it sort of eye-catching so people look at it and are actually interested. And hopefully everybody didn't just take that and put it right into the circular file, but hopefully people looked at it, and it has information about where to comment and where to find information. Of course, this is my opportunity to say, you can go to www.planacortes.com, or you can just go to the city website and look for the 2025 to 2045 comprehensive plan update. Comments can be emailed to complan@anacorteswa.gov. And there's lots of information and lots of ways to be in touch with the planning department and get comments in. We are having a public hearing on this document that we're just sort of introducing today, even though it's been out for several weeks already, but we want to have the opportunity to discuss it. And if there's any questions that the Planning Commission wants to get out there before we have a public hearing on August 27th. And I'll leave it at that, and Libby will give her presentation now. Thank you.
Thanks, John. That was a really great introduction and pulling us kind of back out to the big picture of why we're all here doing this. So I really appreciate that. So good evening, everyone. I'm Libby Grage, Planning Manager in the Planning, Community, and Economic Development Department. And I'm here to talk about the comprehensive plan. And I'm not going to repeat what John just said, but there might be little bits and pieces in here that I will fly by. So our agenda this evening is just a quick background on our process and timeline. And then I'll do a high-level overview of the proposed changes in each of the elements of the comp plan. We're not going to go through page by page or anything like that. I know you want to, but I refuse. So, but it's basically going to be consistent with the staff report that's in your packet, just looking at kind of the overview. Here's the main idea of the changes, and then here's what has been updated since the last time the Planning Commission looked at these elements, because there have been a few changes here and there. And then we'll talk about next steps. So, this is the maybe repetitive part, but so what are we updating? We're updating the comprehensive plan. It's our plan for the next 20 years of growth, and it includes important elements like land use, housing, open space, or parks and rec, open space, economic development, and a new climate element, environment and conservation. So addresses kind of a lot of topics that are important to a community. And then We are also updating our development regulations, which are the actual rules that govern what can and can't be built on the ground. So our comprehensive plan is guiding our development regulations. So we're doing the update because the Growth Management Act requires it. Our update, this is a periodic update, so every 10 years we do this major update. Our last update was in 2016. One of the reasons is for the required update is to ensure that that our local plans are consistent with new changes in state laws and other regulations. And also we're doing it because it's just a good idea to plan for growth. So there are some mandatory requirements that the Growth Management Act has for what has to be updated as part of this process. And we've talked about all these, but just trying to summarize. So we have to look at our 20-year growth projections and our urban growth area boundaries, look at new state laws that have been adopted by the legislature since the last update. We're looking at internal consistency between the elements of the plan. And then we also are going to be required to update our critical areas regulations and development regulations. So in addition to those mandatory items that we are required to look at as part of the update, the City Council adopted a docket, and that happened back in about a year ago. So August 2024, Resolution 3161, and that adopted a list of other amendments that the City Council wanted to include in the consideration of as part of the comprehensive plan update. So those included, format, organization changes, various policy amendments. There was a 2021 docket of amendments that was unfinished, and so that was added into this process. There were some future land use map amendments, which you've heard about, and again, some development regulation updates that are not mandatory, but were requested by citizens or put forward by staff or other community members. So the process, what is the process being used for review and adoption of the plan? So it's a two-phase public process. So we've already been through phase one, been doing that for the last year, doing our information gathering, public outreach. There was a climate team that was created and did a lot of good work to help inform the climate element. We released some preliminary goals and policy revisions for the Planning Commission and the community to look at, and then that was the table, the matrices, you remember going through for each element, held public hearings, public comment periods for each of the elements' proposed changes, got Planning Commission's suggestions, and all of those changes have now been integrated into our complete draft plan that we've released. So now we're in phase two, which is releasing the compiled, complete, updated comprehensive plan, which includes both volumes 1 and 2. And volume 1 consists of the introduction and the goals and policies. And then volume 2 includes all of the background information for each of the elements. So you've seen most of volume 1. but you haven't seen the updates in volume 2. You have that now, that's in the plan, but we have not reviewed all of those updates with the commission prior to now. Our next kind of milestone is going to be the release of the draft development regulation amendments, and then public hearings on both the comp plan and the development regulation amendments, and then ultimately moving Planning Commission recommendation to City Council for their review and adoption, all by the end of the year. This is just that timeline you've seen before. We've already been through 2024 with phase 1, and now we're at phase 2, almost at the finish line, which is that little red star. Okay, so quick summary of public engagement that that's been occurring over the last year and a half. You'll recall we have a public participation plan that was reviewed by the commission, public hearing, and a recommendation, I believe, by the Planning Commission to City Council, and they adopted by resolution. And then again, the 2025 amendment docketing process, that was also open for people to submit requests for amendments to the comp plan, property-specific amendment requests. And that was also adopted by resolution. We have our communication tools. We have our web page with all of the information about the comp plan. We've been using Facebook to put information out. John mentioned the mailers, and I think there were 12,000 that went out, is the number that I saw. So it was, went to everybody in town. We've been doing articles in the A-Town, and also we have an email, project-specific email list that people can sign up for to get alerts and notification of new documents and public hearings and whatnot. So you can sign up for that on anacortes.org. We've also held all of the 3 open houses. Staff and Planning Commission members have attended community events last summer, primarily going to Open Streets, Kids Are Best Fest, some of the concerts, just to interact with the community and let them know what is happening with this update. There have been multiple presentations given by staff to various community organizations, informing them of this process. And then, of course, the climate team held 4 meetings and made recommendations on the climate element. There were also listening sessions that were, aimed at specific, businesses, manufacturing, waterfront-based businesses to get input on some of the climate information that was being put out. And then, of course, Planning Commission meetings, lots of them. I think we're at 21 or 22 on the comp plan and development regulations. And then Planning Commission's held multiple public hearings to get input on the preliminary proposed policy revisions. And then, of course, staff has also been checking in with City Council at various points all along the way. So there is a public engagement summary report that goes in detail about each of these things. If people would like to read that, it's also available on the website. So feedback that we've collected to date, we have, of course, the information that the community members coming to the public hearings have provided you all their comments on the various proposed phase 1 updates. We've received over 145 separate comment letters and emails to date, and each of those, of course, it's not just one comment. They've got multiple comments in each, but we've really I'm really impressed. We've really gotten, quite a few that are very thoughtful, have read the plan, provide specific feedback on specific policies. And so it's been really great to see. And we've been passing all of those along to the commission as we receive them. And then finally, I just wanted to let you know that we are compiling a comment summary table that will kind of summarize all the comments that we've gotten and provide brief responses to those. It's not ready yet, but of course the comment period isn't over yet, so working on that. Okay, so enough about background. So introducing the draft 2025-2045 comp plan. So it's available for review and comment, and it has been for a couple of weeks now. As John mentioned, it's available at Anacortes.org. It's easy to access all of the information and submit comments. The written comment period is scheduled to end on August 28th, and there is a public hearing scheduled for August 27th. It's likely that, staff is going to recommend that we keep the public hearing open and continue that forward because we have a couple of other items that we need to discuss before we close that public hearing. So, okay. So on the website, so the draft plan, these are screenshots from our website, and this is how members of the public or Planning Commission can access the plan. There are links to the draft separated out by volume, so volume 1 and volume 2, and then there are supplemental documents, the maps and appendices that you can also download separately if you like. These are all, almost all documents that you've seen before as part of this process. And then also we've separated out in another section of the website by element. So you don't have to download the entire document if you're only interested in utilities. You can just click on utilities and that part of the document will come up and you can just look at that one if you want. So the parts of the plan contents include a new preface, introduction and vision, volume 1, as I mentioned, goals and policies, and volume 2, which is the background information for each element, the appendices, and I just got today before the meeting the glossary. You don't have it yet, but I will be sending that along once I've had a chance to take a look at it. And in the draft, you'll see that so it's basically just the adopted 2016 plan with strike-through underline format. So things that are proposed to be deleted are struck through in red, and new additions are underlined and blue. So overall, our approach to the update kind of changes that are impacting all elements of the comprehensive plan are that we looked at consolidating overlapping policies when possible, increasing the specifics in certain policies to make sure that people could understand what the policy was saying, and staff, and were able to actually implement the policies. We've changed verbiage to accurately reflect the status of policies that have been implemented. So instead of develop, develop certain types of regulations, we've changed it to maintain or similarly. And then also changes to make the document easier to read and more clear, as I mentioned, and integrating all throughout. There are changes to integrate and address the requirements of new state housing and climate, climate legislation. So this new section in the plan, the preface is just information about kind of setting the stage for the rest of the plan, introducing the planning goals of the Growth Management Act. So this is kind of the framework that the rest of the plan is trying to be consistent with. And so that the goals weren't actually anywhere in the last plan, so we thought it might be good to include those this time around. There's also an overview of the countywide planning policies and information about tribal coordination on planning issues. So those are all new. The next section is the introduction and vision section, and there we've integrated some new text. So these sections the commission also hasn't seen before, I should say that, or these revisions. So in this section, we've made some revisions to add information or reference to various climate and housing, new climate and housing requirements, just to make the text consistent with those elements. And we've also updated the community engagement summary to reflect, instead of the 2016 update, this update. And then we've also updated various references and titles of other plans that are listed. So the land use, feel free to stop me at any time if you have questions. The land use element, goals and policies. So now I'm going to just go through each element, and for the most part, all of the changes that the commission has already been provided and have gone through the public comment and review, and the commission has made suggestions about making tweaks or leaving things out. Those have all been carried over into this draft that you have before you. But there are also some updates that have, as I mentioned before, as we've continued to develop the draft that are being proposed as part of the current draft. So some of those include, in the land use element, a couple more changes to the future land use map, which I will talk about more detail here in a minute. Some updates to the land use designation table. Some additional policies were added to address to better integrate the climate related work that's happened, including some language about wildfire risk and wildfire mitigation. And then there have also been some updates based on feedback from the public and some agency comments that we've received. So we've made some changes to various policies to respond to those. So this is the future land use map in the comprehensive plan, and just want to make sure I can take notes as we're going. Okay, so this is the map that's in the comprehensive plan that is showing the various land uses that are distributed throughout the urban growth area. future land uses. And so this map is showing the proposed changes that you have already reviewed. And I don't know, it's been a while, so I don't know if you remember the proposed changes to the land use map. We had the applicants come in and provide presentations, and then we had some public hearings as well. But I'm happy to review those again if you'd like.
Are we going to talk about the two that you have highlighted,
Yes.
7 and 8?
Yep,
Because I don't think we've talked about those.
that's correct. No.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that you didn't want to talk about any of the other ones, because I know it's been a long time. So if you needed a refresher on what those were, I'd be happy to talk about all of those. But for the new proposed changes to the future land use map, I have this is a very bright map, wow. So this new addition would be changing the future land use designation and zoning of the parcel that the Olson building sits on right now, that's zoned, currently designated manufacturing and shipping, and proposed to change to Central Business District, CBD. And the reason for that would be that the current use and form of the building and the proposed use and new development or redevelopment of the site is more consistent with the CBD zone than manufacturing and shipping. So it would align the land use designation with actual use and proposed use of the site.
So Libby, what can they do in the Olson building if it was zoned CBD that they cannot do with it zoned manufacturing and shipping? What's the difference, I guess?
So the difference is that the type of use that's existing and proposed, so retail on the bottom and residential on top, is a permitted use in the Central Business District, whereas it's a conditional use in the manufacturing and shipping zone currently. The purpose of the manufacturing and shipping zone is manufacturing and shipping, so not for commercial and retail uses. The allowance for the redevelopment of the site is specifically sort of carved out for this area to allow this type of use in the manufacturing and shipping zone. And so it would make it more straightforward, if it were Central Business District.
So the reason I'm asking is because it looks like a little island in the middle of everything. And if we're not changing the use of the building, so it sounds like what you're saying is the difference is one is conditional use and the other is permitted by right.
Yes, use-wise. And then the other difference would be various form and intensity standards for development. So in the manufacturing and shipping zone, there's a 10-foot setback requirement from property lines. And in the Central Business District, there is a 0-foot setback from the property line if you have commercial storefront type uses on the ground floor. And so both in the existing case, so as it sits right now, the Olson building is non-conforming with respect to the setback requirements for the zone. So, it gets tricky when you're adding to non-conforming structures. We did take some code amendments through the process, you might recall, for making updates to non-conforming structures, allowing for changes when the building is a historic structure. So we went through that process. This would make it more straightforward to reconstruct what's already there.
And was this at the request of somebody? Who requested it?
Staff requested it, thought that it was could be a good idea, and discussed with the housing authority, and they agreed.
And is it owned by the city?
It's owned by the housing authority.
Okay. Which is the city?
No. No.
Okay. Ask your question.
Yeah, is the housing authority a government entity?
I'm sorry, is it what?
Is the housing authority a government entity?
Yes.
They are probably more like a non-governmental organization. They are a nonprofit. They have a mission. They have their own bylaws. Interestingly, the mayor of the city appoints their board members. However, it's not related to the city. Their bylaws just have the local jurisdiction appoint their board members. That's the way a lot of housing authorities do it. So they are not part of the city. They don't get any funding from the city general fund. We may fund them through community development block grants stuff, but we fund a lot of people through stuff like that. So they are not part of the city, and they are a quasi-governmental organization.
Chairman Martin,
Mr. Mills?
how are they formed legally? I'm not sure if I mean legally or governmental, or in the eyes of the IRS. Are they a 501c3?
So I have no idea, and it's probably not that relevant to our comprehensive plan. I don't know, because
I'm just trying to understand the relationship between the city and the organization. If
They're-
they're not governmental, are they a nonprofit? And if they're a nonprofit, there's different
if there,
rules.
well, there's lots of nonprofit categories that they could fall in for tax purposes. I'm unclear if they're a 501c3 or if there's something that's more specific to the non-governmental type organization like they are.
The point is, changing this makes it easier to redevelop the Olson building by the housing authority, and makes it easier and cheaper, I guess. You don't have to go through a conditional use plan.
Well, in the grand scheme of things, I think that, yes, a conditional use permit is an additional fee, like $1,000 or something like that.
Okay. I mean, that was part of the argument about allowing things by right versus allowing things conditionally. That was the argument, that it takes a long time. It
Yes.
costs a lot more money. That was the argument. So I'm assuming that same argument goes for the Olson building.
Yeah, that's a great point. In addition to just the fee, the length of time and the uncertainty involved in a conditional use permit can result in additional costs.
Okay.
Plus the hearing examiner fee.
Pardon?
And plus also the hearings examiner fee on top of the city fees.
Oh,
And
right.
public notice fees, what it costs to post in the paper and what it costs to send out mailings to people within a certain distance. And so it adds up. But the uncertainty is really the biggest roadblock to the development that a conditional use permit creates.
Okay. That answers my question. Again, it just seems odd to me that this one building is picked out for, it appears to be like favorable treatment or something.
Well, and just to clarify, the zone wouldn't just be changed on the parcel. It would have to, extend up, if this were approved recommended by Planning Commission and approved by City Council. The CBD zone would actually, there wouldn't be this little island of MS in the road. It would extend up. But
Okay.
it's out there for comment, and
Yep.
and we can move on if you're ready. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks. Okay, the other one is the Anacortes, the property that the Anacortes Museum sits on 8th and M Avenue. That is owned by the city. The current zoning is Old Town, or designation and zoning is Old Town, and the proposal would be to change that parcel to the public designation. And the reason that this is proposed is because a museum is not a permitted use in the Old Town zone, so it's essentially a non-conforming use. The restrictions on non-conforming uses include, not being able to expand them in size. And so changing the designation to the public designation would not only align the existing and future proposed use with, or align the designation of public with the existing and proposed use, it would allow for, I believe, through a conditional use permit process, expansion of the museum. They have additional space needs to contain the collection, and so it would allow them to, efficiently provide for that additional space on that site.
Oh, Mr. Mills.
Are the setback requirements different between Old Town and public designations?
That's a great question. I don't have that information in front of me, but I would
just think if they're contemplating expansion, whether or not we're opening up a different requirement for setbacks.
Yeah, let me get back to you. Or I could try and pull it up, but I don't think I could do it quickly.
It's on, let me see here. It's on page, well, the different land use designations are on page 43 of 602. So you have Old Town, I see Old Town.
But I don't think that includes the form and intensity standards. You were asking about setbacks? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's all right. I know that in the Old Town zone, it's 20-foot front, 20-foot rear, 10-foot on the side on M Avenue, and 5 feet from interior setbacks. I don't know what the specific form and intensities,
So
looks like John
for
has it.
the public zone, so if you looked at in AMC 1942, 180, it's the public zone form and intensity standards. It's its own separate section, and it's not in the usual chart. So minimum setback requirements are no minimum except development is subject to the block frontage standards in Chapter 1961. And the setback standards in AMC 1942, 160B. So I'll go to 160B. Which is a height requirements. So it's a little bit more flexible in the public zone.
And I plan to bring back additional information and staff recommendations on these proposals prior to the public hearing. So I'll be sure to include that information.
So the big change is the land use. So in the Old Town Zone, museums are not allowed. So they would not be allowed to expand. Like, there is no process to move forward. So it needs to be changed in zone in order to make it a conforming use. And, you know, that's a historic building that's been there for a long time. So it really should continue to be used, and a little bit of expansion is the hope. And it can't be expanded without changing the zone.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Were there any other questions about this one? I'm happy to, this is also, having this meeting, I am hoping to get input and feedback from the commission about, I'm probably not going to have all the answers. So additional information that will help you along the way, things that you have questions about that I can bring back at a future meeting. So feel free to blurt those out or email me separately. Thanks. Okay. So the next section is where there were updates after the Planning Commission last reviewed this in the land use designation, or excuse me, in the land use element are in the table LU-1, land use designations, and this is where all of the descriptions and future development types are outlined for each of the future land use designations that are shown on the future land use map. So this is where you go to understand exactly what each of those colors on that map means. And so in the kind of some overarching updates that were made to this entire table are changing the, in the second paragraph here, it used to say principal uses and density, and then it would list out, various uses that that are expected to develop in those areas over the next 20 years. And there was some feedback that it was confusing whether that, with that title, whether this paragraph was trying to describe existing land use types that are like the existing conditions, or if it was describing what is envisioned in this designation for the future. And it's the second option, so we're trying to identify what the community envisions in this designation over the next 20 years. And so we changed the title there just to try to better convey and clarify the intent of what follows. So we changed it to expected development and uses.
I think there was also some public comment against the language for maximum and minimum density regulations language.
Yes.
I'm
Are
not
you
saying-
referring to just in the R1, the RLD1?
Yeah. I'm not saying good or bad. I'm
yeah.
just saying, yeah.
Yep, we've received comments on that. And specific to the RL residential low density designation, one of the other changes that was made since Planning Commission saw this was that the cottages was moved up to from the other dwelling types such as accessory dwelling units and cottage housing may be allowed under certain circumstances, it was relocated to, that single-family dwellings, accessory dwelling units, and cottages are expected development types in that designation. And that was based on the Planning Commission's discussion during looking at the development regulation, proposed updates for the R1 zone, and was consistent with the Housing Action Plan recommendations. Oh, there it is bigger. The next land use, the next change that you hadn't seen before was in the Old Town designation. The discussion last time we talked about this was to include cottages, so single-family dwellings, accessory dwelling units, and duplexes and cottages, where cottages wasn't mentioned before. In discussing that potential change with our consultant makers, the discussion was that in the Old Town zone, the lots are all primarily relatively small, on the small side, 6,000, 7,500, 9,000 square feet, which is, it's difficult to make a well-designed cottage development, which requires right now under our current code at least 3 units. It's difficult to make that fit on a lot that size. And so the recommendation from makers was to not include cottages in that designation. Any questions about that?
I think our conversation was making Old Town similar to the R3. I think that was our conversation. I see cottages are still in R3 and R3A. I don't have any comments unless the rest of you might.
Okay, well, noting that, we can always, if the commission would like, we can make a recommendation to put that back in.
Okay.
But that was the sort of the thinking behind that change. Another change that was not reviewed with the Planning Commission during our phase 1 was this new special, so within that land use designation table, there are, at the end of each designation, special topics to explore, which, would kind of describe a future potential action by the city to look at doing, this or that within that designation. And staff found it helpful because it kind of memorialized discussions during the comp plan update process in 2016, where people thought, well, this might be a good idea, we should look at this, but there just wasn't the time or capacity to actually do that process as part of that plan update. So anyways, that's kind of the origin of the special topics to explore category. So we've already done a lot of them for the different designations, so a lot of those are actually proposed to be deleted within the table. But this is in the public use zone, an example where we've added something in, and that is to consider changing the designation of certain city and state-owned properties to public to align with the current planned public or open space uses. And what we noticed going through the update was that there are quite a few properties within the city that the city does own where it's a public facility like a wastewater treatment plant or park or different types of uses where it would make more sense to have those designated public than the residential designation that they are right now, or commercial. So that would just be there were a lot of them. So, to bring them all and go through them all as part of this process, there wasn't the capacity to do that. So in a future update process, that could be something that we look at. Okay, so we're through the Land Use Volume 1, goals and policies. And so this is just a quick overview of the changes, revisions that were made to the Land Use Background document, Volume 2. So that's all of the kind of background detail and analysis that supports the goals and policies. And so within that background document, there were updates to align with the new state laws, of course, some addressing countywide planning policies. There are a lot of updated figures and data, demographics, and zoning, land use designation areas, and other information that just needed to be updated since the last time it was in 2016. There's information about the new growth allocations and capacity. And also, within that background section, we will memorialize the future land use designation, the map changes. So we'll include what was proposed and then what's actually ultimately adopted, just so we have that record in the plan. Okay, so moving on to housing, it gets much easier from here. So in the housing element, goals and policies, we just carried over all of the changes that were in the revision tracker that went through the phase 1 process with the Community and Planning Commission. And there weren't any changes since that process, so that should all be the same. The housing background information, of course, there were updates to make it consistent with HB 1120, the new housing legislation. We also made updates to reference the countywide planning policies and consistency with those. There were, pretty major updates to the community profile background information. There was an addition of a summary about the housing action plan and the public process that that document went through. There's also new information, including housing inventory, production and cost trends, and analysis of housing and service needs. Any questions on housing element updates? Oh, okay. So economic development element, goals and policies. Again, we just carried everything through from the policy revision tracker that you are all familiar with. And there weren't any updates to those since you've seen them. And then there were quite a few updates to the background information, just to update various data and statistics. We integrated information from the economic development plan that was recently completed. We also added a new section containing, or this might be from the Economic Development Strategic Plan, SWOT analysis. We also created new sections that describe other economic development related plans, so referencing out to those, and recognize local organizations that are involved in economic development locally. We updated the projected population and employment growth information, and added information about employment conditions, including employee travel patterns. Transportation, goals and policies should all be the same from when you previously reviewed that element. No updates since. We did update the background information section. We updated the existing conditions data. There's a new section that addresses active transportation, including new level of service standards for active transportation facilities, which was a requirement out of the climate legislation. There's updated information on the inventory of public transit, air transport, and marine transport that we have here in the city. And an updated future transportation needs analysis. So there are quite a few updates to that background information document. So after you've had a chance to read it, let me know if we need more discussion on that or information, spend some more time on that. Parks, recreation, and open space. So we basically carried over all the changes that we've already discussed through the process. The one update would be the creation of an updated open space connectivity map. So this is the draft, and basically what it is showing is all of the areas that have wetland indicators, steep slopes, stream corridors. What else? Some public properties, so school properties that are owned by schools, privately owned and dedicated open space. So when a new subdivision is created and they're required to have a native growth protection area to protect critical areas, or open space tract, those should all be shown. And then also the city-owned open space, like the Anacortes community forest lands and other dedicated open spaces. So essentially it's trying to show the various open space networks. We're trying to, there are a lot of policies in the comp plan and a Growth Management Act planning goal to retain and enhance open space areas. And so we're trying to show, here are areas where there's connections between open spaces and critical areas that should be planned for, and we should try to keep those connections and enhance them to improve, wildlife, habitat connectivity, and recreational connectivity, et cetera. Are there questions about this? And this map is open obviously, for comments. I'm sure people will have suggestions and comments on it.
Comments?
Okay. In the background section of the Parks and Rec element, we've added a discussion about the Growth Management Act requirements for Parks and Recreation elements. We've also updated the Parks and Recreation Facilities inventory and recreational programs list, and also information about partnerships that the city has with other community entities and organizations, and providing parks and recreational services to the community. We added a section on the Anacortes Senior Activity Center. And we updated the level of service and funding information. Sorry, that reads kind of funny. The level of service and funding information, and also there is an updated list of recommended actions to make improvements to park facilities. All right, environment and conservation goals and policies, again, not really any changes there. There was, in response to some public comments and agency comments, or, well, I don't think we got agency comments, but public comments concerned about removing some of the shoreline-related policies. That previously it was proposed to remove some of those policies that were repeated in the Shoreline Master Program, which is, also a part of this comprehensive plan. And there was some concern about doing that, and so staff's proposing to just leave those policies in for now, and then we can make sure everything's consistent and not repetitive when we move through the Shoreline Master Program update adoption process. Okay, so the background information for the environment and conservation element. So there were just some kind of minimal updates there. Again, we added a section discussing the GMA requirements for protecting critical areas and including best available science. We expanded the inventory to include elements of the environment, so we kind of categorized the elements of the environment into land, water, flora and fauna, and atmosphere. So added some information, and I think there are a couple places where we still need to add a little bit more detail, so those will probably be updated with the next draft, or provided as staff recommendations for updating. And then we also made some minor updates to the critical areas section. Capital facilities, goals and policies, again, carried over all of the changes that the Planning Commission's already seen, and no updates there. In the background information, you'll see updated inventories for all of our capital facilities, including a new section on green infrastructure, which is a requirement under 1181 climate legislation, and also a new section on city-owned marine infrastructure. We've added an update on future facility needs for the three big utilities, water, sewer, and stormwater. There's some new 20-year capital plans for water, sewer, and stormwater systems, including discussion about funding. We also updated the fire EMS, police protection services, and public schools sections to be more current. And then there's a new section added for other city buildings and services, and this came out of the recently completed building condition assessment that the Public Works Department had completed, and there's also a 20-year capital plan. Excuse me, 20-year capital plan for city facilities, city building facilities, like non-utilities. Okay, utilities section, no changes there. We made some minor updates to the background to update the inventory and forecast of future needs.
I think that word said forest.
Oh, forest of future needs. I kind of like that. Thanks. I'll fix that. Forecast. Climate goals and policy. So that's our big new element that did not previously exist in the 2016 plan. With that, we carried over all of the changes that Planning Commission reviewed in phase 1. And then there were some updates. We discussed last time the commission discussed the climate element around the industrial facilities, oil refining, gas manufacturing, We had quite a discussion about revising and adding some policies that better addressed the March Point refineries and also renewable energy generation and storage facilities. And so you'll see those new policies in that section. And we used the Skagit County policies that were pulled up at the last meeting as a model and made updates so that they reflected our local Anacortes situation. And then the background is all completely new, so no changes to report, it's just all new. And I should say the background element or the background section of the climate element is mostly pulled from the various reports that were developed by makers and parametrics through the process, so the greenhouse gas emissions inventory and the climate vulnerability, gosh, I can't remember the name of it. The climate vulnerability report that looked at our vulnerabilities in Anacortes to the impacts of climate change. So sections pulled out of those reports to kind of create this background section. And then, of course, the appendices to the comprehensive plan, we plan to include the land capacity analysis and adequate provisions checklist, which the commission has been out there for quite a while. Climate vulnerability and risk assessment report, that's what I was trying to think of. And then the GHG greenhouse gas emissions, you can tell I was getting tired. And then the racially disparate impacts analysis. So those will all be appendices to the comp plan so people can find all of that information that supports the rest of the plan easily. And then the glossary, like I said, we asked makers to work on that, and I received a draft right before the meeting tonight, so we'll include that in the packet for a future meeting. Ooh. All right, so next steps. So now that you know all about the draft, we can talk about what the plan is coming up over the next couple of meetings. August 20th, that's next week, that's a special meeting. And there will be a public hearing for a shoreline substantial development permit. So that's a City of Anacortes Public Works application for a shoreline permit that requires a public hearing and a decision by Planning Commission. So we'll get to do that, and then potentially we might have some revised or some additional development regulation amendments that we could talk about as well. I don't know for sure that we will have that by then, but I will try my best so that we can have some additional discussion. And then on August 27th, of course, is the public hearing for the comprehensive plan, and that's already been advertised and published. Staff is recommending that we just hold the public hearing and then just keep it open so that people can continue to provide comments. September 10th, that would be a continued public hearing for the comprehensive plan. And we will also have the rest of the development regulation amendments ready to go for additional discussion with the Planning Commission. It's possible that we might need a special meeting on the September 17th. And so I put it on the schedule just to let you all know. We should know soon if that is going to be needed. But please just pencil that in and let us know if you aren't able to make that. But we'll confirm shortly whether we need to do that or not. September 24th, the plan is to hold deliberations and recommendations. So the Planning Commission, after the public hearing, after you've seen all of the public comments, you can hold your deliberations and make a recommendation to the City Council on the comprehensive plan. And I put tentative because, things happen. So we're trying to put some framework in here to try and meet these dates. But the last part of this schedule could change. And then if needed, we could have a special meeting, because we're trying to get this all completed by the end of the year, right? So that's why we're talking about having special meetings potentially. So October 1st could be a special meeting if needed, if the commission needed additional time to deliberate and create your recommendations for council. We have, I forgot to mention, so also coming up in the fall, we have a couple of big projects that require public hearings and recommendations by the Planning Commission. So we'll also be trying to fit those in around the comp plan discussions. Ultimately, the goal would be having the recommendation for the comp plan in the beginning of October, and then the development regulations, deliberation and recommendation mid-October. So could move all of this stuff forward to the City Council. That's it.
Chairman Martin?
Yes.
Just planning purposes, I know I'm out of town the September 24th. So
Okay.
that's one of our, it looked like a regular meeting, but if you want to,
Okay.
if we have to start counting up who's going to be where.
I would be happy to send out an email with these dates, and maybe you could respond if you have a conflict, and then I can figure out what works for most people. Okay.
And I know I have a conflict on the 1st and the 8th of October. Mr. Mills, I'm looking at you.
I've got a severe problem on the 24th of September, which is probably the most important meeting.
Okay, that's 2.
I could potentially do it remotely, but
Are you?
Libby, can you put that schedule back up?
Oh, sorry.
So September 24th looks like might be an issue with probably 3 commissioners.
So the October 1st meeting is becoming more likely.
Well, the September 24th, we also have an important recommendation for, I don't know if that's already published or not, but
It's not. It's just tentative. We have not put the public hearing scheduled out there yet.
Could it be scooted up to September 17th?
Probably not.
Probably not.
The shoreline permit?
Yeah.
I don't think so, just because of timing requirements,
Okay.
notification, publication. But we'll continue, looking at this and,
Well, I will be out of the country the 1st and the 8th. So,
of October.
yeah. So, Mr. Mills, yeah. Okay.
Usually, mid-September is a really good time to do this sort of thing. It's a little surprising that we're having so many conflicts on the 24th. That's like the sweet spot in planning. When like right after school starts, that's when we generally know, like, okay, people are engaged again, so.
It's helpful, though, to have this schedule and be able to talk about it now. Yeah,
Oh, and I won't be here October 1.
okay.
So I'm writing this down, but I'm still going to send out an email so you can,
Okay.
so we can get it in writing.
So that's 2 on October 1 and 3 on September 24th. That's right in the middle of when we need everything to be happening. So if anybody's plans are changing or flexible, let us know.
Okay. Well, Ms. Grage, on behalf of the Planning Commission, as I look at these 602 pages, I was thinking about writing my dissertation and the size of my dissertation. And this is bigger than my dissertation. So kudos for doing this in the amount of time and getting it put together and clear and all of that. I know I have more reading to do for sure. And now with you going through it, I know a few places to hone in and take a look really carefully. So that's helpful as well. But I'm sure I'm speaking on behalf of all of us that we just really appreciate you and appreciate the work that you have done. And Mr. Coleman, couldn't do it without you as well. So we appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. And I have lots of help. But yeah, I'm glad that this was helpful. That's kind of what I was hoping to be able to just point some things out so it's not so overwhelming. It's really not all new. So
Right.
yeah. All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we're on to item 7, Planning Department update.
Libby pretty much just gave you all the update of everything coming up, so that's all we have.
I think we haven't officially heard about the UGA that we sent, the request that we sent to the county. I see it in here.
So the county approved their comprehensive plan and associated development regulations about 3 weeks ago. So by doing so, that officially expanded the Anacortes urban growth area to include the city-owned land that we discussed in our part of the mapping section. So the ACFL has been added to the urban growth area, and so presumably in the next year or so, we'll probably get around to requesting those areas to be annexed into the city.
Great. All right, anything else from the commissioners? Not seeing anything. What time is it? 7:23. We are adjourned.